Greetings from David Carroll's Country Oasis. We was planting these seeds and we was putting them in the ground. And while I was doing that other video, Carol had a thought. And she was talking about, and I had thought this a while back. See, we have to ingest the word, that's for sure. And we do that by, I know we read the Bible, we study and seek what Jesus said, and those things, the words that he spoke in our heart, and the word of God of the scriptures. But we learned that he said, my sheep hear my voice. They hear the voice. So that seed is the word, we allow the word to be planted into our ground. We put the seed in like that, and then we cover it up. I better mark that. And so we put it in there, and we cover it up. We put it in there, and we cover it up. We take the seed, and we cover it up. Now, once we put the seed in, once we take that seed and put it into the ground, we can't do anything more. It has to die. That seed has to die. How does it die? Well, it dies to our flesh. What has to die? See, that's the seed is planted into flesh here. And I tell you, when that word, and it may not look like it's doing much. There's some things that it's probably not, we're not seeing it in our spirit because we're not recognizing what's happening around us. But as we take the word, it doesn't change us overnight. It doesn't change us overnight. It doesn't, see this, it's a process. I know there's some things that, talking about the word being finished and done and everything. But listen, until I begin to eat that word, until I begin to seek that word, I planted that word in my life. It took time for that fruit to bring forth. It took time to bring forth fruit. See, in the meanwhile, when I planted it, I'm looking around and all of a sudden, there's weeds in there. That's got a root in it. You wouldn't know that that's a root right there. If I let that stay right there, it would produce some weeds. And that's why we have to be careful. Here's another one. Look at this. There it is. There's a root. And it's a seed. And those things in there, that's why we plant them. We plant them in the ground, and there's the things that grow in and we keep an eye on it. We pull the weeds. And you say, well, I thought the word is, yes, as it brings forth, but we need to be willing to look at what we see and pull out those things. Let's say, what are some of these? What are some things that would choke this seed out, this new life in there? There's the, resentment, jealousy. Those things can choke the things out. And you say, well, I said before see, it's the fruit. He said, in the seed is new life. In the seed is new life. Only when that seed is produced in us and it brings forth life in us in abundance. But, okay, so then we let these weeds stay in here, and they will produce too, see? They're all over the place. So we pull them, not because, we pull them because we see them. It's obvious they're there. It's obvious they're there, and we pull them, and we take them, and we throw them away or burn them. That's what they do. This is the tares. There's the tares, right there. That's those things in our mind that keeps us that crowd out the word of God that's been in our spirit. It crowds out those things that we want to have life on. See, these will prevent that and choke it out. That's why it's so necessary to learn where to find your sustenance in the Spirit. Do you want saved? People say, well, I'm saved. And we're saved. Well, okay, you can be saved, But as long as this weed you're not say is allowed to grow in your garden, you're not saved from it. What about bitterness, unforgiveness, and hurt? Those things from the past, things that you resentment from the past, those things that held you and kept you from learning, prevented you from going forth in the Word, and you can hold these, and these things will go right back. And next year you'll be tilling your ground, doing the same thing you did the year before, and you'll be doing this over and over because you're not keeping track of what I have to do this over and over because I'm just too lazy to get out here and till it, or I got too busy doing other things, tilling in the natural garden, and I let it go, and now I'm having to pay for it. I'm having to do that because I didn't keep it tilled and keep it up. Many times we do those things. Keep your garden tilled with the Word of God, with the Spirit. Keep in contact. Listen, how do you seek the Word? How do you seek? You study. That's one thing. But one of the biggest issues I find with Christians and new Christians or new converts or new whatever you want to call it, is spending time with the Lord. Spending time getting on your knees and searching the Spirit of the Lord and finding out what He sees, learning to hear His voice, separating and getting by yourself.
Staying focused.
Staying focused on the Word. Staying focused on those things that need to be in your spirit. See, we get our eyes off of things and off of onto our desires, the things we want to do. And pretty soon the Word becomes a hindrance. It becomes an interference with what our will is. Our will says, I want to do this, and we say, I'm going to do that. And then the truth pops up, and it says, shouldn't be doing that. And then all of a sudden, condemnation is on our doorstep, and we're standing there looking at it. And pretty soon we yield to the condemnation, and it becomes a weight. Then we begin to ignore it and pretend it doesn't exist and continue doing what we know not to do. Because as long as we continue doing what we know not to do, it is a sin, according to the Scriptures. And sin is the wages of death. In other words, it's a death. Death is your reward for that. I'm not talking about death in the grave. Maybe it is, but I'm talking about death to the life of Christ in you, the life of knowing who He is. See, when you can't make a good decision in confusion, you can't make a good decision in death. You can't make so if you're allowing your will, your emotions to control you, you can't make a good decision. You'll make the wrong decision just about every time.
That's because you've allowed the tares and the weeds to take over the goodness.
Over your garden.
Yes.
And so as you do that, as you release yourself to the Word, all of a sudden you find answers you wasn't looking for, and they're better answers. You'll find a better place to dwell in. You find in your spirit. Your spirit is refreshed by the Word, and clarity comes. Clarity, a vision. You're able to see where you're going. But as long as you're bound up in your fears, in your doubts, and your will, and your personal will, you won't find peace. You can't, because they are, see, we try to plant the seed sometimes wrong. And each seed, we try to plant it in confusion. See, let's say this seed only goes 1/4 inch into the ground. Let's say I planted an inch and say, I'm just going to plant it willy-nilly. I'm just going to throw it out there. I can plant it an inch and it won't grow. It'll kill it. Or I can just throw it on the surface and it won't grow. And some of them will, some of them won't. It won't have any root. So it has to be done right in those things. That's what we are. And our garden has to be open to receive the garden of our mind. Listen, your will pull you away from the truth if you don't have the Lord. This is what you're changing, your will to His will. Not my will, Lord, but your will. Because I know you better, you have more knowledge of who I am than I do. Because I'm confused. Lord, show me how to walk the way and walk in your will. And as we yield ourselves to His will, we'll find that our will comes in line with His, and we'll find the peace and the joy dwelling in His kingdom that we've been seeking for.